Hi everyone, so today we have an election, midterm actually, Senate map between the Democrats who have 23 seats and the Republicans who have 42. Let's just go into here so we can just make sure, okay, perfect, that's how you do it. So let's start off with these safe states. So Washington, California, Hawaii, all going to go to the Democrats. New Mexico, that's pretty safe. Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Vermont with Bernie Sanders. I would consider actually Maine. I'll leave it as a toss-up right now. Michigan would be safe for the Democrats. Minnesota, that would be safe. Just looking around for any other safe states. Okay, now let's go into some safe Republican states. So, Wyoming, Utah, Nebraska, Mississippi, and now we're going to go into some of the more likely states. So, Mississippi special election I would consider likely for the Republicans. Likely for the Republicans, yeah. So that's pretty much the only likely state I see right now. Some of the likely Democrat states, I would say Virginia, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. Oh, I forgot to fill in New York as safe. Sorry about that. Maine, West Virginia is kind of hovering between a likely and a leaning, but Ohio would be likely. Okay, now for some of the likely Republican states. So there isn't really that much. So I'm just going to go into leaning. So some of the leaning Democratic states. So this is pretty much where we start off the map. Then I will go into the other ones. So let's go west to east. So let me just make sure I didn't get polling data. Oh my goodness, I forgot to get polling data from Montana, Indiana, and West Virginia, so I'm just going to do that real quick. So just bear with me just for a sec. Oh, Minnesota special election, that's likely. Let me just do that. Polling data for Montana. Perfect. And then polling data for West Virginia, and then polling data for Indiana. Okay, sorry about that. So let's go west to east. So we're going to start off with Nevada. So that's North Dakota. That's actually, we'll start off going like this. So we'll start off with Kevin Cramer in North Dakota. So I actually think this one is going to flip. Looking at the polling data, it is really just a dead heat. Cramer is up by 0.5, but that's really within the margin of error. I think this will go to the Republicans just because it went to the Republicans so overwhelmingly in 2016. Trump won it by huge margins. So I think that Kevin Cramer will, if he ties himself to Trump, I think he could do quite well in North Dakota. Next one along the list is Missouri. So North Dakota and Missouri, I think, are the two most competitive races, as well as the state of Texas. So Missouri, it has Josh Hawley. Josh Hawley is not really the best person that the Republicans could have ran, but I think this one should really just stay at a pure toss-up. McCaskill has gotten unlucky the last few Republican times. However, this is really an interesting race to watch. Going over to the state of Nevada. So Nevada, the polling data has Rosen ahead. The only poll that had Hiller ahead is is just by 1 point, and it was from quite a while ago, from back in April, I believe. And this one was taken just recently, so I think that Nevada, with all the Democratic trends, even Clinton carried the state. I think that it will flip over to Jackie Rosen. Going over, next one is the state of Tennessee. So Tennessee, all the polling data shows Phil Bredesen ahead. And in his 2006 governorship, I believe, he won it by, he won every single county in the state of Tennessee. I think that he will hang on to that base and defeat his Republican challenger, well, not really, but his Republican opponent, Marsha Blackburn, who isn't necessarily the best person the Republicans could have run. They should have run the incumbent Republican. Next one we're going to look at is the state of Arizona. So this one is between Kristen Sinema and Martha McSally, who is probably going to win the Republican nomination against Joe Arpaio and I believe someone else, but I'm not sure on the top of my head who that person is. So the RCP average has Sinema ahead by 8.2, and the average margin of error is about 4 points. So I definitely see this one flipping over to the Democratic side. Martha McSally, she's fine, but not necessarily the best person that the Republicans could have run. Now we're going to move on to the state of Texas. So Texas is definitely a race to watch. You have a deeply unpopular Republican incumbent, Ted Cruz, and his popular Democratic challenger, Beto O'Rourke. This could really go either way. Beto O'Rourke definitely has a much better ground campaign with his grassroots activists, his progressive movements. So I think that definitely gives him a running shot. It was much closer in 2016 than in previous elections. I definitely, looking at the Texas polling data, every single poll has Ted Cruz ahead. However, I do feel that if you remember in 2016, the primary, yes, Bernie Sanders did narrowly lose, but the polling data had Clinton ahead much more margins than this. Polling data can be wrong, so and I definitely see better some of these Republican people going, do I really want to vote for Ted Cruz? And they will vote for Beto O'Rourke or vote third party. And obviously Beto O'Rourke will have the support of Democrats and independents, I do assume. I definitely see Texas flipping over to the Democratic side. Going over to the state of Florida, this is another close race. Polling data does have Scott ahead. I would say all of them are within about 5 points. Sorry about that. The only outlier is this Gravis poll, which I believe was done in the favor of the Democrats because there is absolutely no way that Bill Nelson will win by 28 points. That's not trustworthy. I know that the polling data is all over the place. Some have Scott ahead, but most have Nelson ahead. I definitely see this as being a close race, but I think that Bill Nelson will edge it out. And the reason why is that Rick Scott isn't the best person the Republicans could run. He narrowly edged out his elections in 2010 and 2014 in Republican wave years. And that's not the best thing. And this is meant to be a Democrat wave year. I definitely see Florida maybe even could be likely, but I think it's leaning at the moment. Going over what next one we're going to look at is the Montana Senate race. The only good poll we have out of it is one that puts John Tester 8 8 points ahead. I definitely see this one being likely for the Democrats, not really a big surprise. This one really didn't go through that well. So the West Virginia Senate race, Republicans are very optimistic because Clinton lost this so badly. But you need to remember that he's ahead 6 points in polling. I definitely see this one being one that the Democrats could pick up. I would even put it as likely, actually leaning for the Democrats. But going over to the state of Indiana, which is the final state that we will be looking at, not really much polling data out yet from the state of Indiana. However, I think that this is going to be a really one that people are really going to be watching. Texas really should be a pure toss-up. I'll leave it like that too, just because the polling data has them ahead. But Indiana's also pretty much a pure toss-up. So looking at the state of Missouri, I see this one flipping over to Josh Hawley. The only reason Claire McCaskill was able to win in a state like Missouri was because she was against weak Republican opponents, and it was still pretty close, which is pretty surprising. Now that she has a strong Republican opponent and Missouri is trending more Republican, I definitely see her losing this Senate race, but it's still going to be pretty close. So it comes down to Texas and Indiana. Texas, I definitely do see better overall grassroots activists really showing in a state like Texas. But Indiana, this is really going to be really close. However, Texas, I don't feel comfortable giving that to either candidate, actually. It's just too close. Indiana, I see Joe Donnelly narrowly edging it out. So it all comes down to Texas. I really do not feel comfortable making an indication of who will win in the state of Texas. So I guess we'll just have to leave it like this. It's going to be really darn close in the state of Texas. It's going to be really, really close. It's just going to come right down to the wire. I don't feel comfortable making an indication. I would say at the moment, it would probably lean, just because of the polling data, ever so slightly in Ted Cruz's favor, but then again, Beto O'Rourke's grassroots campaign, it really could go either way, but I will leave it off with Ted Cruz giving the Republicans the majority, 50 seats to the 50 seats for the Democrats. Thanks for watching this video. Comment down suggestions below, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.